Okay, so hello everyone, I'm Alistair Faraday and I'm an implementation consultant here at Fluent. And today I'm going to walk you through the area of payment processing and also claim forms, with some time left at the end to answer any questions in the chat, which you can feel free to pop in at any time during the webinar. So just going over the agenda of what will be covered. So we'll start off with scheduling the payments either manual or automatically, authorizing those payments and processing them, showing you where to roll back and delete any payments, and also processing and managing the claim forms. So scheduling payments, starting in the Manage Grants dashboard. So you'll filter by your scheme, scroll down to find the applications. You'll be able to see them here in the post-award half of the workflow, highlighted by this grey line here. So just looking in an awards summary, which has got all the post-award awards, essentially. We'll locate the relevant application and go to the grant file by selecting Open Summary. So to schedule the payments, on the left-hand side, go to Claims and Payments. Now, to do this utilizing the budget table, if one has been set up on your application form, first you can amend it if necessary. So you'll go to Budget Actions, and you can either do so by editing the budget here, and just with your discretion, just changing any values that you feel is necessary, and that'll update the budget itself. Once you've done that, you'll want to create a payment schedule. So you'll preview the payment schedule first, and then you can amend any of the details here. So you might want to change the reference, most importantly, the payment date for each of these payments, and the description and batch type if needed. Once you are happy, you are free to just schedule the payments at the bottom. Then if we go to the Claims and Payments tab, we can now see these have been scheduled, waiting to be authorized on the system. If your scheme doesn't have a budget table implemented, you would simply add the payments manually by selecting the Add Payment button, to which you will be prompted to complete these details manually yourself. So you'll decide if you want to give it a custom general ledger code, payment reference, again, most importantly, the scheduled date for the payment, the batch type, if it's a bank account or a check, and then also a description of the payments. Is it linked to a particular funding source if you have that set up on your system? The actual payment value itself, and then if you would like to notify the approver of this additional payment to this awardee. So the details there would be automatically populated if you were using a budget table, just to note. So now coming to authorizing the payments. So hovering over this button on the right hand side, you will simply select Authorize Payment, and then Authorize. Now, this only appears if in your scheme's payment settings, you have set up the advanced payment workflow. And this is where, if you've chosen this setting, only particular predefined authorized users can authorize this payment ready to be processed. Just a note, if an authorized payment needs to be put back into the scheduled status, simply, again, where you authorized it, select rollback payment instead. So I'm just going to take a detour to explain the advanced payment workflow in more depth. So in our grant settings of our scheme, by scrolling down to the payment settings, the first option here is the point of interest. So if you want a simple workflow, this is just where you would carry out the previous actions, but without the need for any authorization. So those payments would be made manually, and then you would also be able to set up the authorization without the scheduled step in between. So if you wanted the advanced workflow, you will be prompted to enable the extra functionality for authorized users. So if you wanted to enable that, you can do. And also any extension to payment if you would like a maximum amount of weeks for that. So if you've enabled the authorization levels, you would next set up those authorized users. So scrolling up to the authorization levels tab here. And what you would do is you would select a user to have the authorization with a maximum amount they can actually authorize for a payment. So in general, the only people who can actually access this page to amend any of these roles will be those with admin permission. However, if you have ever changed those permissions of role groups, the access may differ dependent on such changes that you've made. So say if we wanted to do this, we would give £10,000 as a maximum value this person can approve, and then select the added user. So we've seen how to schedule and authorize payments, and we will now go over processing them on the system. So in Manage Grants, over here on the left-hand side is the Payment Processing tab. So here you can utilize all the filtering. So first of all, what grant scheme, then the payment status if you want to filter by, do you want to do scheduled or only authorized, and then look at any batched or paid. Do you want to see only payments that only you can approve, or do you want to see all the payments? And then if you want to filter by a particular date, which is quite useful, that's also there for a filter to be used. So once we've filtered and we've got the desired payments that we want, you can then choose to batch them as necessary. So for example, if we want to batch all these year one payments for this award, we will select them all and create payment batch. So this then marks those payments on the system as paid, and you can choose to send this information off to our finance team by exporting the relevant batch here. So for this one, obviously it's filtered by date, so this is the one I've just batched here, and I would simply select export, and that gets brought up in an Excel file for you to be able to use. If you need to delete this payment batch, you'd simply select the delete button, and then this payment puts this action puts those payments back in the authorized status on the system as they were before. Another useful export that can be used with this part of the system is in the Query and Export tool. So we go to that in Manage Grants. If we choose for our data source, commitments and expenditure from payments, it allows you to export all the payments that have been scheduled into one report. So it's quite useful for forecasting. So first, you will choose your grant scheme. If you need to filter by any tags as well. And then for the columns of the query, you can decide up to how much information is relevant. So you may decide you want everything regarding the application, so the scheme reference, project title, etc. For the award holder, you may again want all the information here because it's organization, reference, person. For finance, this is where you might want to select what information is relevant here for what you're exporting. So it might just be the funding source, and budget type code. And for payments, this is where you'll again choose what information is necessary. So you might want the payment ID, reference, the description, the amount, status of the payment, who it was authorized, batch number, etc. And then once you're happy, you will create the query, and then this will bring it up in the table below where you can review it if necessary. You don't have to, and then you can select export to Excel. And as you can see, that's how it looks. It's very slow today. There we go. You can see all the data that it's brought up here for you. So that's one particularly useful part of the system that you may wish to use. So for managing claim forms, you can also set up a claim form to receive invoices, where the amount that's been provided by the awardee can be deducted from the budget. So say, for example, that we have asked the applicant to complete the claim form, which they have done so. And then we need them to make a claim. They've made the claim against this, and we deduct that from the budget. So they've submitted it via the portal, and now we'll look at managing this claim form. So within the claims and payments section of the grant file, you'll come down to where the claim form is. And first of all, you'll put it in the review mode, so other admin users will know not to review this form as you are currently working on it. This user then can approve the claim form by then viewing the details via selecting the view form. And then they can just assess the claim form as necessary, determining if it should be accepted or rejected. Just to note, this is only in read-only view mode as well, so nothing can be changed here for the admin user that's viewing it. So say that the details provided on the form are not satisfactory and you require changes to be made. You can choose to return it from the options here on the right-hand side, like so. And you'll choose whether you want to notify the recipient. So this will open up an email template for you to customize before sending out to them, and then select return form. Yes to roll back the claim form. And then you'll want to edit the email before you send it out. So mainly the bit where it says enter applicant instructions here, so they know what to change so they can resubmit it. Then once you're happy, you'll send that email out. And as you can see, this reverts the claim form status back into in progress. So the user who first completed the claim form will then be able to return and update the claim before resubmitting it. And once the claim is resubmitted, it can be reviewed and either accepted or rejected. So if the claim is to be rejected, you will simply select the reject button here on the right hand side. And once this is done, the status is updated. Now, if you accidentally reject a claim form, you can revert the status back to submitted by using the rollback option, again in the same location as before for rejecting it, like so. So to accept a claim form, like rejecting it, you would simply select accept, yes, and create a payment. We will create the payment, and we can now see within the payment section, it's been scheduled. And then finally, you'll authorize it as we saw earlier. And that's everything to demonstrate in the webinar. So now myself and my colleague Louise will answer any questions that you have. If you have no more questions, feel free to drop off, but I'll just stay here for a couple more minutes in case there are any more. And thank you all for joining today for the webinar.